Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host Umar Khalid, but it is the 5th of December 2024. These are the stories that we will be highlighting in the course of the show. We'll begin with the Middle East crisis that continues to engulf the entire region, and we might be say even beyond. Today is day 425 of the Israel-Palestine conflict, and despite the fact that there are some news here and there might be a ceasefire deal finally between Israel and Palestine, nothing seems to be implemented to this day, despite the fact that many other deals have been talked about in the past, including the three-phase important deal by Joe Biden. Now, this said, the number of casualties keeps on increasing, the number of injured keeps on increasing. Amnesty International has leveled serious allegations of genocide on the Israeli government. This and more will be discussed in our first segment. Our second story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns the APC that happened today in the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa government, which was, of course, chaired by the governor Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and then he addressed the media as well after the APC, and he talked about the different issues for which he had convened this all parties conference and what seemed to be the issues concerning Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. This will be discussed in our second story. Then we are going to talk about South Korea's parliament that has introduced a motion, ladies and gentlemen, to impeach President Yoon Suk Yeol over a botched attempt to impose martial law. We did talk about it before as well, that he had imposed martial law, and a couple of hours later, because of the extreme pressure and the resolution that was tabled in the South Korean parliament, he had to revert his decision as far as the imposition of martial law was concerned. But his repute has taken a serious setback because of this. Will he be impeached or not? That only time will tell. Then we are going to talk about the 53rd martyrdom anniversary of Major Muhammad Akram Shaheed that is being observed with solemnity across Pakistan. Of course, he is being remembered for his valiant services to our country, for which he laid down his life in the 1971 war. This is the lineup for today. Let's begin our first segment, and that concerns the Middle East situation. We are day 425 of the Israel-Palestine conflict, which began on the 7th of October last year. We've been joined by two guests, one in the studios and one online. In the studios, we've been joined by AVM retired IJAZ MALIK Saab. He's a senior analyst and a regular in our show. Thank you very much, AVM Saab, to have joined us. And online, we'll be also joined by Haneen Harara, who's a Palestinian journalist. But of course, as soon as she comes, we'll be continuing our conversation with her as well on this very topic. Let's begin with you, AVM Saab. Children among 20 who have been killed in this latest bomb attack by Israeli forces on Gaza's safe zone. Not the first time. There are so many reports that have come up that say that women and children have borne the maximum brunt in this war between Israel and Palestine, in this Middle East crisis. The United States and the United Nations also says that 75,000 people rather remain under siege, and the situation on different platforms is dire, to say the least. How much more devastation are we going to witness?
First of all, I honestly feel very sorry and helpless sitting here and just discussing this issue over and over again, and we do not see any significant improvement as far as situation and plight of poor helpless people in Gaza is concerned. Your question about children and women folk, in any conflict, this group is obviously very vulnerable for the obvious reasons. But in this particular campaign, this is a targeted group because this resonates very well with the planned genocide that they want to eliminate the future generations of the Palestinian in Gaza. That's why they are starving them to death, they are bombing them, and they are doing whatever direct and indirect force application that they can manage to make sure that this vulnerable group cease to exist.
But the fact is, AVM Saab, that despite the fact that the United Nations has talked about it again and again, different other countries have talked about it, the ICJ, the ICC have imposed restrictions. Despite that, nothing concrete has happened, and Israel is continuing to do whatever it can and whatever it will and whatever it wants to, basically, since the 7th of October last year. Now, it's not just Palestine, AVM Saab, it's also Lebanon, and in Lebanon also there are continued strikes, despite the fact that there is a ceasefire in process in between the two states, that is Israel and Lebanon, if we can call Israel a state. Violations of a ceasefire is what we are hearing time and again from the Israeli side as well. Will this deal between the Hezbollah and Israel survive in the long run?
I don't think so. This would, this may give some respite, but it would definitely give, some more space to Israel to execute their plan if, their past conduct in this conflict is concerned. So we shouldn't be very optimistic about this deal to be sustainable.
All right, this is what you feel. Amnesty International has come to that, says Israel is guilty of committing genocide in Gaza. It concludes in a very strong report on this crisis and this war, that Israel's war on Gaza has met the legal threshold for genocide. In this report that is known as "You Feel Like You Are Subhuman." Even the title resonates with the common man across the world, because it says the truth. What's your take on this very, very important report that comes, but not the first report of its kind that has come, but nevertheless a very direct report and a direct accusation on Israel of being perpetrators of genocide?
This report has been very well researched, and it is supported with very concrete evidence. And it has been widely covered by international media, Al Jazeera writer and BBC, Guardian. They have covered it very well. But unfortunately, the response from the Israeli ministers, they say this is a fabricated report. So that shows that they do not care, much about whatever reports any credible, neutral international agencies may give about the conflict. They would continue to pursue what they intend to.
The report also talks about the international community's failure. Now, this is also something that has been highlighted in many other reports. How do you see the reaction of the international community since the 7th of October last year?
As the conflict progressed in the initial few months, we have discussed right here in your show as well that we did have some kind of hope, if not from the American governments, but definitely from some Muslim countries like Turkey, for example, and few European countries. But practically, as the war progressed, we have not seen any meaningful effort to do some physical measures or take some initiatives which could either stop Israel from doing what they have done, or who could at least do something to alleviate sufferings of the people under siege.
All right. What about famine? The situation of famine is also extremely dire. Food insecurity is present in Palestine since the last few weeks. The United Nations talks about most of the people in Palestine who are suffering of certain levels of famine as we speak. There is a deliberate attempt by Israel to stop the aid from arriving to the Palestinian people. What needs to be done?
We need some involvement of United Nations, but unfortunately that's not coming up, and that's not likely to come up soon because it's being controlled by Americans. And unfortunately, we do not see for the present outgoing American regime and the new cabinet which has been announced by Mr. Trump, which will come in office in January, and even the body language and response to certain questions at different places, the response or the stance of Mr. Trump is also, I would say, highly detrimental to restoration of peace in Middle East.
All right. Israeli National Security Minister Ben-Gvir says Israel should stop fuel supplies from entering Gaza Strip until the Israeli captives are released. He says they believe that the Palestinians will fall to their knees and say take the hostages and bring the fuel. This is of course a quoted comment by him. These and more such comments, like comments such as we need to evacuate 50% of Palestinians from Gaza and tell them to emigrate to other areas so that we can maybe also fill in the place with more Israelis. When you look at comments such as these, what do you expect from the Israeli government in the days to come?
Obviously, every day they are escalating the conflict, which is by and large one unilateral, I would say, application of force. There is a resistance, but obviously they have the people on ground, the Palestinian, they are just managing to survive and just giving a resistance. There is no aggression on their side. They do not have wherewithal to cause much of damage to this invading army. So I think this threat of starvation, of the fuel starvation, it would impact whatever semblance of life we have in that region, because the generators in hospitals, they will stop to operate. Other essential services like sewerage and things which are operated through energy being provided through this fuel, that would suffer, and it will add to the miseries of the people.
AVM IJAZ. Malik sir, I also like to understand, we've got the change of administration as far as the United States is concerned, starting on the 20th of January next year. And Trump, on the one hand, the current president-elect, says that he is anti-war, he does not want war in different parts of the world, but at the same time he is also extremely pro-Israel. Ben-Gvir, the same person that I alluded to, also says that he is going to present Donald Trump with a program to encourage migration and settlements, migration of Palestinians, settlements of Israelis in Gaza. Will Israel get away with whatever it is doing, or maybe more, once Trump comes into power?
Once President Trump was going through his election campaign, and particularly when addressing the Muslim communities, the Muslim Americans in there, he was saying that we need to end wars, or otherwise as part of his global policy. But ending war on what terms? That's what matters. Ending war, if that implies that giving a blank check to Israel to multiply its force application and reduce the time scale of their objective achievement, so that ending war is meaningless. And even now, based on some of the his media interactions, his Muslim voters have shown their disappointment on his practical explanation of what he meant by ending the war. So I don't think so that there is any sign of improvement with the change in White House.
The United Nations General Assembly, AVM Sahab, passes a resolution by 157 to 8, 157 in favor and 8 against, as far as calling on Israel to withdraw from the occupied Palestinian territories and pushing for the creation of a Palestinian state. What kind of an impact would a resolution like that have on the current situation?
You see, if we, as we know the dynamics of how if the United Nations General Assembly and Security Council works, what we have seen and observed as a student of history, the United Nations General Assembly resolutions would not change course of action for any global issue. It is only what goes through without being vetoed through the Security Council. So only those and particularly in now unipolar world, anything which is not endorsed by United States, it carries no significant impact on any conflict.
The United Nations Security Council also tried to pass one resolution, but it was vetoed, of course, by one particular member, and 14 went in favor. The UNGA President Philemon Young says the international community's demands are clear when it comes to Gaza, and he also talked about the 14 members who voted for. He says that the horror in Gaza needs to end. But when we look at it, there might be a lull, there might be a slowdown, but the horror is there. The people are witnessing it on an hourly basis. What is the need of the day?
I think unless and until as a Muslim Ummah or Committee of Nations, which forms the bloc of countries being ruled by Muslims and Muslim majority countries, unless they raise their voices to a level that they are perceived, as a threat to some interest of the Israel and pro-Israel lobbies in the Middle East, only then there could be some change in the situation on ground. But unfortunately, that's not coming up. Most of the time, it's only the press statements, photo sessions, and nothing beyond that.
That is what is needed. The implementation of all the resolutions. They're basically passing towards the action phase of whatever has been said by different countries across the world.
At least as a first step, what I would urge or expect, purely on human grounds, that at least the inflow of aid should be straight away ensured, regardless of what is the situation on ground. There have been our human history of wars is replete with those where the war was going on, and still International Red Cross and Hilal-e-Ahmar and other donor agencies, they were working in those conflict zones, even in the combat zones. So this relatively is a easier place if we just use the landing spaces, the landing sites and the air landing facilities, for example in Egypt, and then transport the relief goods. I think it's doable, but only and only, if the regional countries, they put in their effort.
But I think it needs to be the world as one, and it needs to be the world as one to help the Palestinian cause and to help those who are in dire straits, because as per the Lancet report, around more than 175,000 people have been killed so far. But that is an unofficial figure that we'll know only the truth of when this and if this conflict ends. Thank you very much, AVM IJAZ Malik Sahab, to have joined us and to have discussed the latest as far as the Middle East crisis is concerned. But it's so sad when we see what is happening in this part of the world. And despite the resolutions, despite the the statements, despite the decisions taken by international bodies such as the ICC, ICJ, nothing is happening. It is a very, very sad state of affairs. Unfortunate. Thank you very much, AVM Sahab. Let's come to our second story, ladies and gentlemen, and that concerns the all parties conference that was held in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, that was convened by the governor of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Faisal Karim Kundi. He then addressed the APC, and Federal Minister Amir Muqam was also there. The governor said the true representation of KP is present in today's APC. He said he has no concern that he talked about the government of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. He said the Chief Minister of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa has no concern was a law and order situation. Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, he said the PTI leadership did nothing for the people of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. The resources of the KP government, he said, were being used on protest. Law and order situation in Kuram, of course, he said, was dire. We all know what that situation is. He said the Chief Minister of the province is busy orchestrating march towards capital, and these problems can be addressed through dialogue, but not much is being done. Also, Amir Muqam addressed this auspicious gathering of people from different parties convened under the APC. We will be discussing different aspects of this APC and, of course, the situation in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and why have things come to this. We've been joined by 3 guests, 1 in the studio and 2 online. In the studios, we've been joined by Daniyal Sheikh, political analyst. Thank you very much, Daniyal, to have joined us. And online, we'll be joined by 2 other guests, Zulfikar Ali Baber Saab, who's Bilawal Bhutto spokesperson, and Sharmila Farooqi Sahiba, who is a Pakistan People's Party leader. And we'll be, of course, discussing with them as well during the course of this segment. Let's begin with you, Daniyal. Faisal Kareem Kundi Sahab addresses the APC with Federal Minister Amir Muqam. He talks about the true representation of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa present in this APC. He talks about the law and order situation that is emanated from Kurram. He says that the government in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, of course, headed by its chief minister, is not doing the needful and in fact using government resources for other uses like protests and other things. I'd like to understand how important was the convening of this APC in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and were the objectives that were raised, did they come to some kind of fruition in your point of view?
Well, as far as conclusion is concerned, see, the most important stakeholder in this in Pakhtunkhwa is the government. So them not being part of it, obviously it does affect the effectiveness of the all parties conference. Having said that, you called it a protest. Now it's come to the point, see, a protest is something very civilized and it's got legal cover. This is something else, is not a protest. This is basically plundering the state resources, and it's you can call it a theft, you can call it it's more than misuse, you can call it abuse. It's basically abuse of his power, which the Chief Minister has time and again did. Like I said earlier in your program, now it's high time that the federal government intervenes and discusses this matter with the Chief Secretary and the Inspector General, because this needs to stop. The whole concept of the APC goes. It's not going to achieve what it should have achieved unless PTI joins the whole process.
But that is another huge question mark as far as the joining or not joining of the PTI is concerned. So Zulfikar Ali Baber, who is an additional secretary of the Pakistan People's Party, joins us online. Thank you very much, Zulfikar Ali Baber, to have joined us. Zulfikar Ali Baber, I'd like to understand the importance of this APC. Did it achieve what it wanted to achieve, and why, in your point of view, was PTI not part of it?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you very much, Umar Bhatt for inviting me to your show. The relevance of this APC was very important, as the law and order situation is very bad in KP, and I think this initiative should have been taken by the government itself, but unfortunately government is not focusing on the law and order and keeping a peace in the province. So the governor of the KP, Mr. Kundi, took the initiative and invited all the stakeholders. And once again, unfortunately, it's very sad to know that the main stakeholders, the PTI, who is in power in KP, they have not actually taken, a clear stance and position to attend the APC, where all the political stakeholders of the province were there, and they were all discussing that how to take care of the matters, what is happening in KP. So I think Mr. Faisal Kareem Kundi has taken a good initiative, and this must have been taken by the government, and now they are again taking, first they are doing a hue and cry and taking reasons not to be a part of it because it was not their initiative. So I think the political majority will be that we have to rise above our political affiliations, and we have to focus on what is happening on ground, and let's focus to create peace in the province, and all the stakeholders' input should be taken on board, and all the inputs must be taken and addressed by issue, So this is very important.
All right. Kindly stay online with us. Daniyal, I'd like to understand, why did the PTI not attend this? It was the only party that did not attend. It says that the People's Party, along with the government, is trying to get the party on loggerheads and this and that. I mean, so many accusations, as they always was leveled as well this time. When Baber Saab talks about political maturity, how important is this point when it comes to the convening of all parties conference and the deliberate absence of one political party that has formed the government in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa?
and which is responsible for the law and order situation.
Exactly.
I'm just stating the obvious. Well, you see, like I've been saying this on television often regarding the whole protest, that why is it so that Ali Amin Gandapur does not ask for a judicial commission? Because if he does, the first thing that the judicial commission is going to find out is it was his gunmen and his bodyguards, the policemen of KPK, who were the first ones to open fire to disperse the crowd which was trying to stop him from running away. Similarly, had he attended the APC, in that he would have to justify his performance, which is not up to the mark, to the extent we're discussing the Kuram agency and Parachinar. And you know, in his own district, D.A. Khan, it's there is a lot of insurgency, to the extent that now the local residents find it difficult even traveling through that route in the wee hours. So having said that, basically it's an escape from taking responsibility. One thing that's been proven by the conduct of the Chief Minister, that he's a very irresponsible person. All he cares about is to somehow secure his job, and for that the bigger ruckus he creates, or the biggest circus he puts up, that's his agenda, that's all he thinks about. He's not concerned about governance, he's not concerned about development, he's not concerned about anything else related to his actual job. So this is the reason why he didn't come. He was afraid that he's going to get exposed. Well,
that is a very sad state of affairs, because the fact is, when you look at politics, politics when it comes to issues that pertain to KP, you need to move above and beyond and work collectively for the collective good of a province.
Well, not just this, if this was an issue of the NFC, he would have been sitting on the front row. If this was an issue of some other...
Let's come to that issue. We've also been joined by Sharmila Farooqi Sahiba. She's a Pakistan People's Party leader. Ma'am, thank you very much to have joined us and to have given us the time. Last Sunday, Chief Minister of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Mr. Gandapur, rejects the governor's all parties conference, insisting that it is not the governor's job to call such moots. But I fail to understand, when a province is going through very, very rough patch with the issues that have happened in Kuram and elsewhere, why is a particular political party that is part of the government, has formed the government, is not ready to talk it out with other parties?
Well, thank you so much. I think it's very, very unfortunate that the governor of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa had to call for an all-parties conference instead of the chief minister doing that. The kind of bloodshed that is going on in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and the number of people that are being martyred there is heart-wrenching for all of us. And the worst is that when we see that the chief executive of the province is not paying heed to the cries of these people, the families of the victims. I mean, for him, this bloodshed probably means nothing. And the entire resources of the KPK government is being used for a political agenda to create hindrances in the capital, to stop the economic growth in the country, the economic revival. I would call it really, with malified intentions to harm the people of Pakistan. It is really, it's troublesome for us. If one province is burning, there's been bloodshed over there. It's really heartbreaking for all of us to see this, and chief executive doing nothing. The most he could have done is, or rather the least that he could have done is, attend the all parties conference by the KPK governor and give his input and tell the people that what is the government doing to stop this bloodshed and to bring peace and security in the province. He did not even do that. This is so unfortunate. I think the entire province is dysfunctional right now, and the resources. And I think in the NFC award, they get a lot of resources. The provinces get a lot of resources. In fact, more resources than the center. And those resources are not being diverted to the schools, the hospitals, for the security, the peace and security of the people of that province. It's very unfortunate. What do you do in such a situation? How do you deal with the situation? Then the governor of the province at least has to step forward and, call the people and find a solution to this problem.
I agree with you on that, ma'am. I hope sanity prevails, because the situation in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa with the incidents happening in Kuram and elsewhere is not, is a very sorry state of affairs, to say the least. Thank you very much, ma'am, to have joined us and to have given us your valuable input. Zulfikar Ali Baber sahab, I'd like to understand, Sharmila Farooqi Sahiba talks about malified intention. How much of that have you seen as far as issues pertaining to Khyber Pakhtunkhwa is concerned, which led to the governor of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa convening an all-parties conference?
You see, I'll support that notion of malified intentions by saying that if there would have been a good intention of the KP Chief Minister, he would have taken the initiative to call the APC himself, and his party would have taken the lead and invited all the stakeholders. So unfortunately, he didn't. And when it was called by the governor KP, so he would have went by himself, or who would have sent some representative of him to attend the APC. So the malified comes when he is neither interested in calling the APC, nor he is sending any rep to go and attend the APC on behalf of. This was very much focused on KP, and all the stakeholders of KP of that particular province were there to discuss about the issues which is happening currently in KP. So this was a very actual malified intentions of the leadership, because their focus is not to mend the things, their focus is not to bring justice or social justice, or to serve the people, bring welfare to the people. Their justice is their focus is to serve their own leadership, which is in behind the bars, and they are putting all efforts to attack to their own country's capital by their provincial resources. This is so unfortunate. If they like to have any kind of sit-in, they would have done it in Peshawar. If we look at the history of Pakistan, there are a lot of political parties in Karachi, in Lahore. They used to sit in Lahore, even when Mr. Shahbaz Sharif was the chief minister. So he used to do the sit-in Lahore, in Minar-e-Pakistan, against the electricity load shedding. So this was one of the examples. So the chief minister, if he is having a problem or he wants to agitate something, he would have done it in his own province, in his own capital of that province, where he have collected and asked all the people and gathered all them in one city, and have given a message to the capital that we are sitting here, we are agitated.
I agree with you on that. I think the responsibility, the onus of responsibility falls solely and squarely on the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa government as far as the law and order situation in the province is concerned. The governor would not have, it should not have come to this stage that a governor of the province had to call an APC. This should have been the job of the the government. And even if he has convened, it was also the job of a representative of that government to to be there and to give his opinion, as you have ably said. Coming to you, Daniyal, the governor also proposed different solutions to the issue that could involve the federal government in the coming days if the situation continues like that, and to, of course, help those who are in need. What do you feel could happen or should happen in order to bring some normalcy to the situation in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa?
See, before that, I disagree with the point that the governor should not have, rather the CM, the governor, now it is the governor's domain because the provincial government has failed. Yes, the chief minister should have had some shame, and he should have he should have had some shame on his face while sitting in the APC and accepting his defeat or his failure as the chief executive or as the man responsible for the life and security of the citizens of his province. That part I agree with. Having said that, yes, now see, there are two issues. One, terrorism of any form, be it sectarian, be it religious, well, any kind of terrorism. See, terrorism has to be dealt at a national level, and it's very important that, like for example, the situation in Para Chinar, now it's because it's sectarian violence, so the elders of both Islamic sects, they need to be brought together, and I think the federal government also needs to play a role. Actually, I think there should be, at a national level, there should be an all parties conference to somehow curtail this mentality of fundamentalism, and we need to educate the masses about religious pluralism and coexistence and how to live in harmony. As far as this political party ruling that province is concerned, even their politics is as fundamental, in their politics they are as fundamentalist as these band outfits, because for them there is no reason, there is no logic. It's like in layman term they say it's my way or the highway. They whatever they believe is right. Whereas I think the federal government and especially the Ministry of Religious Affairs needs to play a vital role. They need to be more proactive in and they need to educate the masses, and they need to engage the clergy at all levels to somehow curtail terrorism. Because see, it's not at one point it was an external issue, there were few elements, but right now we are seeing domestic elements as well. So as far as the domestic elements are concerned, the only way, see, law enforcement is one thing, but the government needs to be proactive.
The government needs to be proactive. Zulfikar Ali Baber Saab, in your point of view, what way forward do you see after the APC?
For the sake of country, you have to sit down and have a dialogue to resolve the issues, to address the problems of the people of KP, of people of Kuram. And for that matter, you have to put your attitude and ego aside and have to talk to all the political stakeholders, all the political forces, including the federal government, the state, the establishment, and everyone. I think this is the way forward. If the KP government isn't going to follow this path, I think they will be having a lot of trouble in the future, because this isn't a solution that they are focusing on to resolve the issues of KP province.
Is the problem. We need to go towards solutions, towards a solution-oriented approach, but that's going to only happen when all the stakeholders are on board, and when a major stakeholders that has formed the government in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa is not there. What do you expect?
I think they have to realize, the self-realization is very important. The political maturity has to prevail, and all the people are not naive in that party. There are very mature people, politically experienced people are in that party. They have to come forward and sit down and talk things out, resolve the issues. Whatever the issues are, they have to bring all the issues to the table and sort out their timelines, that how and when that can be sorted out. So this is a very important thing. But if you just going to leave the matters of the party and the government in the hands of naive people, I don't think the issue is going to be resolved. They have to have experienced people brought forward, and they should be resolving all the people, because you have to put your emotions aside if you want to resolve this issue. Otherwise, emotions cannot, play important part in politics. It has to be a mind.
I'm going to ask Daniyal, because Zulfikar Ali Baber talks about emotions in order, talks about bringing issues to the table. The party that has formed the government, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, doesn't want to bring issues to the table. It wants to bring issues on the street in not in a stable or non-violent manner. Secondly, emotions in order. I think this particular party that rules Khyber Pakhtunkhwa has also shown that its emotions are far from in order. What can happen now? What is the way forward? We need to move in an environment where the people of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa feel safe.
See, it's very interesting that the word emotion was used. See, fundamentally all humans, and in fact all living beings, we've got two emotions. One is the emotion of fear. Now the opposite of fear is the emotion of love. All good in this world comes out through the emotion of love, and all evil comes out of the emotion of fear. So it's very much obvious that they are driven by the emotion of fear. So now whenever, see, in law, whenever a crime is committed in criminal law, there's a term actus rea and mens rea. Actus rea is the act and mens rea is the thought behind the act. So behind every criminal activity there has to be the emotion of fear. So like I said earlier, for the Chief Minister, the only thing that matters is to somehow secure his job. And to somehow secure his job, he has to create a ruckus. And that's all he focuses on. had the priorities of the leadership incarcerated would have been prosperity, development, betterment of the masses, the Chief Minister would have been performing differently. In fact, then there would have been a different Chief Minister. Right now, while this person is in office, although there's a great, in fact, this is a good news for the residents of KPK, there's a lot of contempt and hatred developing within the ranks of the party. And as I'm giving a prediction in your program today, very soon you will see that Chief Minister Pakhtunkhwa is going to be replaced. Now he is no different from Humpty Dumpty, who had a great fall. Now all the king's horses and all the king's men cannot put him back together. He's lost his integrity, he's lost his moral ground. He's not going to be able to retain his position much longer, especially after what he did on the 26th of November during his protest. So he has to go, he is going to go, and hopefully this time the selection is going to be of a senior person who, at least, see, regardless of whatever your situation is, as Chief Minister, you are under oath.
And you have a responsibility as far as the province, the entire province is concerned, and you have to move forward in an apolitical manner, at least when it comes to the people of the Khyber.
More than that, what he's not realizing is, God forbid, if this sectarian violence, if it further escalates, the whole country is going to...
That's a point, that's a very valid point that I'm going to ask Zulfikar Ali Baber. Sectarian violence, this is a term that we have seen, we have heard. And this is something that we need to curb in the bud, nip in the bud, as we say. In your point of view, what measures now need to be taken, whether it is as a result of the APC, whether it is by the governor who takes these decisions with other stakeholders?
We have to facilitate people of both the sectors. We have to understand the problems of both the sides. Once we understand the issues and the problems, we'll be able to resolve, make them sit down and talk things out, because this is not something new that we have been watching since in the last 80s. And people have been living together, having two different sectarians, school of thought. So this isn't a problem. The problem is there is some kind of a problem or an issue in those communities at the grassroots or at that community level, which needs to be addressed, which needs attention of the government to create the law and order situation under control. So this is very important, because rest of the country, I don't think this is going to happen all around the country very soon, because this problem is of particular area and this can spread in the whole of province. But whatever the problem is coming from, that has to be actually focused and addressed.
Needs to be tackled with and needs, at the very roots level, and need to be this needs to end before it escalates further, and this is why all stakeholders need to be on board. Thank you very much, Zulfikar Ali Baber. Thank you very much, Daniyal Sheikh, to have joined us and to have given us the time. It's always a pleasure to have you in the studios. Let's come to our last two stories. The first concerns South Korean's parliament that has introduced a motion to impeach the South Korean president Yoon Suk Yeol over a botched attempt to impose martial law. We've talked about it. The martial law was imposed for a couple of hours, then there was such a hue and cry that he had to reverse that decision. But now the impact on his own job is there because of the impeachment that could be brought in the parliament in the next coming days. And will it have any impact on the South Korean president or not? That only time will tell. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, today is the 53rd martyrdom anniversary of Major Muhammad Akram Shaheed. He was born on 4th April 1938 near Kharia, and of course he heroically repulsed innumerable attacks by the enemy, inflicting heavy losses in the Battle of Healy during the 1971 war, and was attained Shahadat and was buried in the village of Abolda district, Dinajpur in Bangladesh. There have been various statements that have come from our president, from our prime minister, and of course from our chief army chiefs as well. And of course we need to acknowledge and we need to understand the sacrifices that have been given by heroes such as Major Muhammad Akram Shaheed. Our forces are there to defend us, and we need to acknowledge that before it's before this whole anti-forces sentiment spreads too far. I think the need to acknowledge it is extremely pertinent. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to an end of today's newsroom. We'll see you inshallah tomorrow with news stories segments that pertain to West and Pakistan. Stay safe. Allah Hafiz.